Welcome to the Saab Market Report. This is a new video series I plan on doing where I'll be going over auctions and recent sales of Saab cars. For this video, I have chosen 4 separate auctions from the past 3 months from Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer of particularly interesting Saabs. The first one is a Saab Quantum. The second one is a Saab 900 with a Sensonic transmission. Third is a 79-mile Classic 900 convertible, which I had previously covered in a separate video. And the last one is a 6,000-mile new-gen Saab 9.3 convertible. So these are all incredibly special for a variety of different reasons, but let's get started with the Saab Quantum. All of these auctions will be linked in the description box for you to view if you'd like in completion on your own. Now this first one is a Saab-powered 1962 Quantum 3 concept. Now because this is technically not a Saab from what I understand, I think they've listed it as Saab-powered, but this actually just ended pretty recently and it bid to $57,000, which it means unfortunately it did not sell, unlike the other 3 cars in this video, and it did not meet reserve. So for those who don't know, I'll kind of very quickly go over what the Quantum was and kind of paraphrase what's in here. This was one of 3 examples built by Walter Kern and Quantum Motor Corporation for presentation to Saab USA as a concept car. So essentially from what I understand, they built these cars and pitched them to Saab to be production cars. And unfortunately, it never made it that far. So really cool, it actually was in California through the early 2000s, but was then relocated to Massachusetts following the acquisition by the son of a former employee involved with the original build. Really cool fact there. It has fiberglass bodywork, and it has a 841cc Saab 2-stroke inline 3 mated to a 4-speed manual transmission. So as you can see, it says Saab powered. It does have Saab guts underneath it, Saab engine, Saab transmission, which is really neat. So he initially built his first Quantum prototype in 1960, and this of course was his 3rd prototype called the Quantum 3, which had a custom tube chassis and fiberglass bodywork, as I mentioned, inspired from the Jaguar E-Type. So we'll quickly go through some photos here, and you can see a lot of the E-Type inspiration. I'll put an E-Type on the screen right here just for reference. There's a photo of the motor, which looks very similar, of course, because it is to what is in some of the older 3-cylinder and 2-stroke Saabs. Kind of a goofy looking exhaust setup. I'm sure that wasn't ideal for exhaust flow, but they might not have known that back in the day. Of course, it is front-wheel drive. And here's a Connecticut assigned VIN. So nowadays VINs are 15, 20 characters long, but back then, look at that. It was just a simple number, pretty cool. So there's some videos of it driving here. I'll quickly go through the photos. I truthfully have no idea what a car like this is really worth. I think it's awesome that it bid up to $57,000. It shows that there's a lot of interest in a car like this, which truthfully should just be a museum piece. But you can really see that E-Type inspiration in the front end, and just with the general look of the car as a whole, you can see that it's really meant to kind of have that slipstream aerodynamic look to it. The steel wheels are cool and look very period correct. There's the interior, very, very simple and straightforward. I'm curious to know what you all think this car was worth, or it is worth. I think, like I said, $57,000 is a fantastic number for it. And maybe it sold after the auction, who knows. But let's next move on to our second car here, which is really, really rare in the fact that it has what's called a Sensonic transmission. So this car not only has 16,000 miles, which is cool, but it has what's called the Sensonic transmission. I actually did a video previously on the Sensonic transmission itself, so I'll link that in the top corner if you want to know more. But essentially it was the combination of an automatic and a manual. So it had, as you'll see in the ad here, it had a traditional manual gear stick, but it didn't have a clutch pedal. So essentially when you went to shift gears, the car would sense that and kind of automatically engage the clutch. Top Gear also did a segment on this back in the day and they kind of mocked it. But let's look at this thing because it is a pristine example of a new Gen 900 regardless of the cool transmission. This actually didn't sell, I was mistaken. I'm sorry, when I was doing the research, I thought that this car did sell. It did not, but here you can see 16,000 miles, Florida car. They list it here as an automatic. I'm sure they didn't have on Cars and Bids a automated manual Sensonic option to list. Cars and Bids is laid out a little different. I like how they put their highlights right at the top. So here you can see 16-inch wheels. These 3 spokes are really cool. You can see it also has a 2-liter turbo, 4-cylinder, 185 horsepower, 194 pound-feet of torque. They also list the equipment, the known flaws. Obviously it has some older tires, being, you know, only 14,000 miles. It only has 1 key. If you're a Saab owner, you know 1 key is bad. Click the video in the top corner if you want to know more about that. But it looks like this guy, whoever was selling it recently, acquired it. So they might be just a dealer, who really knows. Similar to the last auction, there's a video here kind of going over how Sensonic works. But let's look at these photos. There's 300 total photos, but the exterior, very beautiful condition. I've always liked the silver on the NG900. I think it fits it very well, but what you all want to see is the interior. So beautiful condition interior, and there you can see what appears to be a manual, and the average person, and I'm sure a lot of people who looked at this car figured it probably was just a manual. There you can see 25,000 kilometers, so it's actually not in miles, it's in kilometers, which is kind of cool. A couple photos of the engine here. It is T5, but I'm curious, again, I wonder what the reserve was on this car. I wonder what you think it's worth. I personally think that a car like this has got to be worth at least $10,000, if not more. Maybe upwards of 15. So I'm sure the seller was disappointed it did not meet whatever his reserve was, but again, it only bid to $7,500. Let's cut to our third car, for which I already did a video on that I will link in the top corner if you want to see more information on it, because we'll just gloss over it here, and that is a 79-mile Saab 900 convertible. This is a car that recently bid but did not sell at auction. It did not meet reserve earlier this year. And I said maybe when they sell it in spring they'll have better luck, and boy was myself and the seller and everyone else who thought that wrong. So it bid to $59,500 and did not sell previously, did not meet reserve, and here they lowered their reserve, maybe they even went no reserve, and it sold for $49,000. So $10,000 less than it bid to previously. And so I'm sure the seller is kicking themselves for not just taking that offer. And here we are, $10,000 less, and it's sold. So I think honestly, whoever got this got a great deal. And I think the reason why this didn't sell for more, and the main downside of it, is that it has a 3-speed automatic transmission. One other thing that is really cool about this car, outside of the incredibly low mileage, is the fact that it's a Springtime in Sweden and SIS, which is a very limited edition model. It was a convertible only trim that was offered, I believe, for only the 88 model year. I could be wrong about that. I do go over much more about the details, why I think it didn't meet reserve, etc. in that last video, so you'll really want to check that out. But this car is just in pristine shape. But I do think that whoever got this for $50,000 got a pretty good deal. I think it was probably worth, you know, about what it bid to last time. I think if it was a manual, I think they would have gotten much more for it. But that's not a slight against the car, because it is truly in phenomenal condition. The paint, of course, the seats, the interior. I mean, it has 79 miles. I'm sure it's spent its entire life indoors and is fantastic. But that brings me to our last car for today, which was a no reserve, which I think is really important here. No reserve, 6,000 mile Saab 9.3 convertible, 2010, much newer than any of the other cars we've talked about here. And that sold for almost $25,000. I would have thought that a car like this would have sold for 15, maybe 20 if the seller was lucky, but to be no reserve, it just goes to show that selling no reserve can sometimes really help your case when you're auctioning a car. $25,000, I think this is an amazing get for the seller, an amazing buy for the buyer. And just look at this thing. It is truly, truly fantastic. So it has 6,000 miles. Of course, that is the big, of course, eye-popping item here. 5-speed automatic, 17-inch wheels. And I just think all of these ads have great photos, all three of the previous ones I've shown, but this one on top of them all, I mean, let's scroll down here and look at these photos. These are just some 10 out of 10 photos. I mean, these are probably part of the reason why it sold for so much money. Just immaculate condition. I don't see a single stone chip, a single imperfection in the paint. Just phenomenal, phenomenal shape. Let's quickly go to some of the interior photos because I'm sure you all are curious to see those. The soft top, of course, in immaculate condition. But interior-wise, just as good as the outside. I mean, look at those seats. They look like they've never been sat in. Truly amazing. This is what you buy if you're looking for a car that is essentially brand new, fresh off the showroom floor. You kind of want to recreate that feeling for yourself. I think this car right here is probably as close as you're going to get for the new Gen 9 3s. But this is just absolutely gorgeous. Kudos to the owner of the past 15 years. They've done a phenomenal job maintaining this and keeping it in quite literally showroom condition. That wraps up this video. There are 4 cars, Saab Market Report, kind of encapsulating some of the really cool cars that have sold in the last 3 months or so. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please let me know down below in the comments. I can kind of make this a recurring series. I had a great time making it, just covering some of these insanely unique cars that have sold as of late, and also touching back and kind of providing an update on a car that I covered previously. I'll see you all in the next one though. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Check out my merchandise and Patreon linked in the description. See y'all soon.